So I have a confession to make. Without counting the AV movies, I have not seen a single Predator movie until this one. Meaning I had an interesting experience with this movie. This was my introduction to a very popular franchise. So I went into this film not knowing any of the lore, not knowing how it works in the timeline or any of the timeline at all. I knew very little about how the characters work and motivations, mainly as to AVP, but I do know a little bit about that. So some things made sense. But I'm not the biggest sci-fi horror girly. And this to me, although it was a good movie, it's just not my favorite. And for being such a big franchise, it had me at the end being 50-50 of if I'm interested in continuing the franchise or even starting to watch the franchise at all. So that's kind of the mindset I'm going into this film with. I still think it was good. I had a good time, but I'm 50-50 on if I want to watch any other films. So that's how I feel about it in general. Let's talk about the plot. The plot is about Deck, who has a family dispute, crashes on a planet, and tries to hunt something to prove that he is good. Now, going right into the pros, I liked how well shot this movie was. The action sequences, I think, were done very, very well. I like that. I also like the characters. Deck was good. My personal favorite was Thea. And although Bud didn't technically have like a full speaking road, I like the way they handled Bud in the movie. I thought that was very well done. I like the story, and I like how they intertwine the family and the clan aspect of this movie, especially towards the end. I really like that aspect of those movies a lot, and that was the majority of what this movie was. And the movie length was also pretty good for me too. I wasn't getting bored, but the moment I'm like, okay, I'm kind of ready for this movie over, it was over. And that doesn't happen a lot with movies sometimes, but this was perfect timing for me. But there are a few mixed.
Future me here, I'd also like to add, I really like the look of the characters. Deck looks really cool. Thea looks really cool. For the most part, I like how everybody looks. And there were some moments in this movie that I did find funny, like everyone else did in my theater. So that was a bonus too.
The biggest mix for me right now is the green screen and CGI. More the green screen. The CGI and green screen works in this movie. I understand why you have to have that with a movie like this. But there were some scenes that you could tell it was a green screen, especially towards the sky was more obvious to me that it was a green screen. But I do think it's not as noticeable, but it was noticeable enough for me every few minutes or maybe an hour into really starting, maybe 1 second or 1 minute of noticing it. And that could just be my experience with it. But CGI, and that was a big one. And I do have
Future me here. So I want to elaborate further to when I said I like the characters' looks for the most part. For the most part, there was two I didn't really like, and they were creatures. I was not a total big fan of the design for the thing they were hunting for. I love the idea. I like what they were going for. Didn't entirely love the total design and how that looked on film. Bud is the second one. I like Bud. But Bud looks a little too CGI for me on screen. I think he's cute. It doesn't affect it overall, but he does look a little too CGI for me personally. But that's the only thing I can hold it back. Everything else I liked.
I have one negative for the film, and that is the ending. I do want to explain myself here for a second. Like I said before, I was 50-50 on continuing this franchise, and me not being a really big sci-fi girly does come into play when I say this. So the ending, although I do like the story, it just doesn't land for me. And I will say that maybe that does partly do with my feelings about this movie. And how this is my introduction in the franchise. So I'm not really big emphases really on this franchise like I would a franchise I like or don't like. But going right into the spoilers, I really like this story. Now we open with Deck and his brother. His brother was dead protecting him, which I thought was really a sweet way to kind of start it off. Unfortunately, I did miss a scene before that. Like I said, I missed the first like 5-6 minutes of this film. But I like that aspect. And the story when you get Thea's character and Tessa's storyline, I really liked that aspect of that. especially with how Betrayal, Protecting, and then Thea and Tessa, and how that kind of storyline develops. And then you get the storyline of Bud, which I think was very well handled. I personally didn't pick up that Bud was the baby or the thing that they were trying to attack or kill. I really like that. I also think the creature and the look of these were pretty cool. With the monster being able to just, you can't kill it and just name it. I thought was a really cool thing. And the Bud being revealed, that was so nice. And the way the movie ended with the mother, again, that does have a part to do with me not really knowing a lot about this franchise, me not being a fan of it. Yeah, but there's what to like here. The acting sequences of him fighting, Thea's character, the Thea and Dex relationship I really liked and they developed in the beginning. I will say there was small moments of writing that made me like, but there was also some really good funny moments too with Thea's character and how Dex's relationship was. Really good. Really like that aspect of this movie and the whole family ties. At the end when he stands, I have a new one. Oh, that was really sweet. But overall, although this isn't typically the type of movie I go for, I had a good time. I really liked it. Although I'm not quite sure I'll revisit the franchise after seeing this. So comment down below if there's any Predator fans out there and what you thought of this movie and how it works, how it doesn't work in the franchise. Comment down below what you thought of it. And if you're gonna go see it, comment down below your expectations. See you guys soon.